The following live stream has been approved for restricted audiences only by the host because censorship and stuff. It will definitely contain strong language and some adult themes, including frank discussions of sexuality. It may not be suitable for more sensitive snowflakes and is definitely not suitable for children. If you are a children, scram. Otherwise, viewer inebriation is advised.
Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome back to Last Call, and tonight we kick off Halloween weekend. Ordinarily, we would celebrate the weekend by tapping a keg, but perhaps this weekend we should tap a vein. Well, I'm kind of doing both tonight. We'll get to that in a bit, but I'm throwing out a Halloween theme that might be very popular and might get this channel shut down. We'll see. That topic is, well, you're looking at the thumbnail right now, lesbian vampires. Are they a played-out trope, or are they a monstrous archetype? Spoiler, it's both. But we'll dig into the details. But first, I want to reiterate what Sarah said at the disclaimer. Consider this your trigger warning. So let's get to those blood-sucking lesbians as quickly as possible. Top off your drinks and get comfortable. Tell me what you're sipping on in the chat, and we'll roll out this Canarble Wagon just as soon as I thank somebody for tonight's drink and attempt to sing the song he requested. Yeah, you might want to hit mute until I bring in the panel. This week, the patron of my drink is my designated driver, Aged Boomer, the crazy bastard. Oh, not because he bought me a drink, but because of the song that he requested I sing. Yeah, sorry folks, but he's buying, so he calls the song. And you can too. The link to buy me a drink for next week is always in the description below, and if I remember, pinned to the top of the chat. Be sure to tell me what song you'd like to hear me sing, or, if you prefer, I don't sing. That's absolutely fair. Anyway, in keeping with the theme for tonight, I'm sipping on a blood punch devised by the YouTuber It's Black Friday. The link to her video and the recipe are also in the description below. And, as always, grazie e salute. Thank you, Boomer. Say there's a girl who's new in town. Well, you better watch out now, or she'll put you down. 'Cause she's an evil chick. Says she's a witch. She's got I'm a little ahead of myself. She got long black hair and a big black car. I know what you're thinking, but you won't get far. She's gonna make you itch, 'cause she's a witch. Ah, she walks around late at night. Most of the people sleeping tight. If you hear her knocking on your door, you better stay away. Know the score, 'cause I set you straight. But you better be careful before it's too late. She gonna make you itch, 'cause she's a witch. I do like drink breaks. Oh, she walks around late at night. Most of the people sleeping tight. If you hear her knocking on your door, you better stay awake. Well, you know you will. Say, don't you know? And do you remember that I told you so. She's an evil bitch, 'cause she's a witch. Never heard that song before 2 weeks ago.
You can $100, never to sing it again.
Yes, yeah. That's why I put in the chat. Buy me a drink and request a song, or request I don't sing, and I would totally understand either way. Let's get the patron of my drink in here. Boomer, how you doing, and what are you sipping on?
I'm doing well. I'm sipping on
that. I forgot to switch over to my headset. My apologies. There you go.
I'm doing fine. I'm sipping on a Mucho Mango, and that's quite the song, huh? That's from the Sonics. A very important British rock band from back in the '60s, correct?
That song goes a lot better with getting a little loosened up. So I did a little bit, but was it okay?
I liked it. I didn't realize you wouldn't have to do. I guess they gave you the screaming. You didn't have to do the screaming parts. It was included with the karaoke track.
The karaoke track was very clever because it's not that popular song. Somebody actually went in and used the original song and stripped out the vocals, and probably said, "Yeah, let's put the augmentations in and leave that there."
Well, I figured it would be a good song for Halloween, right?
It was, and I think it was. It's actually more appropriate for the watch party that Big Al was doing before this one. But I think it makes a great transition.
Yes.
But let me get my Halloween girl in here, Netter of Netters Network. How you doing, sweetie? And what are you sipping on?
I am surviving. My voice goes in and out. And today it's a little sore. And I think it's just because I had the windows open and it's like dropped down to 40 degrees here.
Yeah.
But I'm two-fisting it. So I've got my Polar Black Cherry Seltzer water.
You changed brands.
Yeah, because I was
easier to get. Yeah.
No, it wasn't easier to get. It's just that's what Amazon had and it was cheaper. And then I've got a shot glass filled of whatever that stuff is.
The blood punch. Yeah.
I tell you, it is extraordinarily cherry.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very sweet. Yeah. I used the herring cherry cherry liqueur. I used and you saw me drink
and that's the bottle that he was talking about.
Yeah. And the cherry on top wine that I had about a month ago, maybe it was 2 months ago. And some fresh grenadine that I made yesterday. If you listen to Thursday Things on Netter's Network, I shared. I made a little bit more grenadine than I intended to.
Yeah, and that bottle, that wavy bottle, all their bottles, no matter what the flavor, they all fit together like that. Actually, hold on a sec.
This is what I was talking about. This is Rose's cocktail infusion. It's not anymore. I dumped it and refilled the bottle with
bloody
grenadine that I made. Yeah. But yeah, first ingredient, water. Second ingredient, high fructose corn syrup. No.
See how they go together?
So, which is kind of cool. So now, what is this? This is a blue raspberry. I think I'll do is I'll make my own. Well, I don't know how you'd make blue raspberry. That's kind of unnatural.
I know, but they're both the same.
And
that's this blue raspberry too.
Oh, so I got 2 blue raspberries. And I'm just not using them because all it is just flavored high fructose corn syrup. I don't care for it. So I've replaced that. Next time I make what's that girly martini that they drink in Sex and the City? Cosmopolitan. Next time I have a Cosmopolitan, I'll use some of that.
Oh.
The last time I had it, I used what was originally in that bottle, and it tasted like chemically. I didn't like it. But okay, let's say hi to the chat here.
Hello, the chat.
Hello, the chat. JPRPH1 was the first one here. He was saying that I should get R&B in here. I believe he's saying Robert Meyer Burnett. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that would be nice. That would be really nice. But I never would have even thought about it. I'd have to ask someone like, I don't know, someone big like Tom Connors or Tom Conkle to put in a good word for me, I think. But Big Al Presents says, Lesbian Vampires talk about living deliciously. Hello, everyone. Salud. Thank you so much. And then this ugly son of a bitch, forget about him. Salute to Deleted Scenes. Thank you so much for being here. I saw that you were hanging out with Big Al in his stream. I stopped by and said hi to y'all. But you guys were so engrossed in the bitch. Cause she's a bitch. Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. It didn't fit the meter of the song. Mr. Londell's groovy.
No, she said she's a bitch instead of a bitch.
She's a bitch. Oh yeah, that would have worked. Yeah, okay, there you go.
Take out the
Greetings and felicitations. Hip hop, hip hip hooray, tally ho. I'm with you. It's funny. Hip hip hoorah, tally ho. I actually translated that into Klingon one time. I don't remember it off the top of my head though. David Pensek, great lesbian vampires. Finally, it's a Friday night last call with Troy Pacelli. About damn time. Yeah. I look forward to it all week. And of course, Netter of Netters Network. I love you too, sweetie. I'm glad you're not a lesbian.
Yeah, me too.
that
wouldn't work out.
That wouldn't work out. No, that would be a problem. Yes. Final Fantasy fan 012. Welcome. Glad you're here with us tonight. Let's see. And you guys are all saying hi to each other, which I always appreciate seeing. I love this community. Hello there, Jesse Guajardo. Salud. Let's see. David, Jesse, JPRPH1, Tim Hayes. Hail. Good to see you, my friend. And of course, I am looking forward to all the insights that all of you will have, because I know some of y'all, Tim Hayes and Deleted Scenes and some of the Mr. Londell, of course, definitely movie buffs. You probably know more than, you've probably forgotten more than I'm ever going to know. So anything you want to share would absolutely be quite welcome. And of course, our hostess, Lady Miss, thank you so much for being here. I am going to be counting on my, the blue wrenches. You're going to have to, do what you do, but I'm going to be counting on Netter and Boomer when I got my presentation up. I'm not even going to be able to see the chat. So you guys are going to have to tell me, when somebody's trying to get my attention and read off the chat to me. Let's see here. Age of Boomer, you're talking. Good. Glad to see everybody interacting.
Interacting is good. Except with lesbian vampires.
Deleted Scenes. Yes, get on with it. From Monty Python. Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank. Just made it home. Just made it in time.
That sounds like That's line in a British vampire movie.
Just get on with it. Absolutely.
The person will probably die in the following scene, but anyway.
So there we go. So I think we're all caught up. And the topic tonight is lesbian vampires. And let's be honest. Why is it a great topic? Why do I see so many of, especially the male individuals in the chat saying, this is a great topic? Let's face it. It's a little bit, sexploitative, right? No doubt about it.
Chicks getting out with other chicks. That's why you're interested.
Yeah, without any sex getting in the way. Absolutely. More girl for your eyeballs. Absolutely.
This girl needs to get her last pill because I forgot. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm sure that's how it was sold back in the day, right? Let's be honest. When are these movies starting to come into play? Maybe you'll have more of an idea. Actually, no. You'll go through the history, so I won't talk.
I will go through the history, but I think the better way to start this would be if we let me turn over the the screen to you. You go ahead. You have a little bit of a presentation you want to share. 4 boobs are better than 2, right? Absolutely.
Computer.
Or as Jeff said in coupling, could you imagine being a lesbian? It's like you've got, 2 guest breasts and 2 you can take home with you. It's bloody brilliant. Bloody brilliant. Ha ha. Lesbian vampires. Ha. I didn't even realize I was making a little pun there.
Yeah. All right. Oh, do I hit present or do you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't shared your screen. Give me a second.
All right. Thank you. There we go.
Absolutely.
That's me trying to be cute.
An oral history. Yes.
Well,
yes,
I'm talking about it orally. I don't know what you're thinking of. Yes, this is my brief experience with the lesbian vampire genre, but I have watched these 3 films quite a few times in my life, not for different reasons. Anyway, here we have. Can we see that, or is the slide 2 interfering with? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yep.
The Vampire Lovers.
Yep.
A whisper of warm desire becomes a shriek of chilling terror in the embrace of the blood nymphs.
Mm-hmm.
You like that, huh? I like that. Caution, not for the mentally immature. And of course, look at those vampire women. Now, I kept thinking these are men strung up. There's some women there too. So, okay, it's all right then. But I was thinking this might be false advertising here. But here we go. Again, we don't get that many. It's really about one vampire lover in this. But anyway, so it's kind of a lie there. But let's move on. Actually, no, there's one at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, that's the Italian poster.
That's the Italians have great posters.
Yes, they do.
I love Italian poster art, especially from this era.
Well, Europeans in general, they got less problems and less hang-ups, so.
To be fair, though, I think American posters during this era were also pretty good, too. I mean, but yeah, there's something about just the art style on this. There's some weird stuff going on here. All right.
Ladies, I apologize now for everything we're going to say.
All right. Yes. Ingrid Pitt as Carmilla. This may be the premiere of Ingrid Pitt in a Hammer film, I believe. I think this was the first one she did. The lovely, lovely, lovely Madeline Smith as Emma, who I felt, I don't know how big of a career she had. She probably should have had a bigger one. Lovely young woman in this. Pippa Steele as Laura. Mm-hmm. Kate O'Mara as the governess. Remember, she was the Ronnie on Doctor Who. Peter Cushing as the general, and Douglas Wilmer as Baron Hartog. Movie starts out with this guy. He's talking about the Karnstein family, and they come up from their grave and they wear this shroud. And
speaking of the Karnsteins, we were talking last week on Big Al's channel about we watched Kronos. Captain Kronos,
which I consider a Karnstein movie. Yeah.
You consider it to be like the 4th. What would you say if I told you it's actually the 5th?
I would ask.
We'll get to that when
Vampire Circus.
No.
Okay, I was thinking because that one I sort of think would take place in that same universe.
I could see that too, but no.
I feel
we'll get there
because they're the Dracula vampire movies, and then they're the
Karnstein,
and then there's Vampire's Kiss, which is a weird offshoot, but I might stick that in the Dracula universe too. But all right, so here we go. So it starts out with this guy. He's saying, members of the Karnstein family, they rise from their graves, and then they go and attack. And of course, this one guy's outside a bar, and he's smiling as he walks outside. And then he walks to the door, and he's got 2 bite marks on his neck, and he dies. And so he figures, I got the shroud, and of course, you see this hooded figure, and it's like, I bet whatever it is, a horrible monster underneath the hood. It goes up to him because he's trying to bait it with the burial cloth, because otherwise the vampire can't go back to rest. And of course, the hood comes off, and it's this beautiful young woman, and he said he had to pray to God to give him the strength to, chop her head off or something, it's just, pray to God to give me the strength to not kiss her, I think. But anyway, that's how the movie starts.
At least not kiss her first. Wait a minute.
Sorry. Anyway, based on Carmilla by Sheridan Le I spelled his name wrong. Le Fanu. Anyway, Forget the S. There we go. Troy will also be showing this picture. That is the lovely.
She's got
Ingrid
some
Pitt.
great gams, let me tell you.
Very interesting actress. And there we have the lovely Madeline Smith.
Oh yeah, that too.
Madeline Smith. This is a lie. She does not appear like this in the movie.
Is this a promotional still?
Yeah, there's a promotional still that was also made for Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, where she's like in a German barmaid outfit, low cut. Doesn't show up like that in that movie either. I'm not happy. Anyway.
That's false advertising.
False advertising, yeah. But no, you get to see a bit more of her in this movie, though, so there's that. There's a funny thing on the DVD where she explains that she wasn't as full as she thought she should be for the part, so she ended up eating a lot of yogurts and then she plumped out. But let's not get into that. I'm not kidding you. That's what she said. She said she was very naive at this age. Okay. There's the full cast.
Yep. All the important ones.
Lovely women.
No one else is important.
Well, Peter Cushing's in this, and I have to say, I almost feel like his part was written for somebody else, and that maybe that actor couldn't make it, and then they just say, let's go with our regular Cushing. I don't think Cushing should have been in this movie. I think he distracts because you're expecting Cushing to have more of a presence, but he's not written to have more of a presence, because I think of Peter Cushing, I think of Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Or Baron Frankenstein, and he's not the main draw of this movie. It's Ingrid Pitt. Ingrid Pitt, in my opinion, is a female equivalent to a Boris Karloff or a Christopher Lee.
I'd say that's absolutely fair.
She's Beauty and the Beast in one, and like she's absolutely breathtaking, but she's also can be terrifying at the same time too. She had a very, apparently, I don't know if she was overdubbed in this. I know she was overdubbed in the Countess Dracula because she had a very low speaking voice because she caught strep throat when she was a child, when she was unfortunately in a concentration camp during World War II. She was a young girl of Jewish heritage and was stuck in there with her family. They barely survived that ordeal. And then, of course, later on, when she was in her early 20s or late teens, she was doing acting, and she was speaking out against the communists while she was on the wrong side of the wall while the wall was going up in East Germany, and then she had to escape that. She had an interesting life. Okay,
I would imagine, yeah.
But there she is, and they're all sitting on the top of a coffin. There she is from the actual movie. Yep. Was watching this earlier today. You can catch it streaming for free on Tubi with commercials, obviously. But it's also available on Blu-ray. I do have the Blu-ray from years back. There might be a better edition out now from Scream Factory. There's Madeline Smith, looking lovely as ever. There's Ingrid Pitt. And I always find this kind of a cheat.
Yeah, I do too.
I turned my dagger upside down. It's a cross. No, it's not.
I mean, I suppose
come on.
It depends on what the whole thing of the cross is. Is the power in the cross, or is the power in your faith?
Here we go. Now this is all Doctor Who. This is they use this argument on Doctor Who. They use this argument in, I think, one of the was it the Lost Boys, or was it Fright Night? It was one of those. You have to have faith or something, right?
It was Fright Night.
Fright Night, yeah.
He holds up the cross, he pushes it away, he says, you got to have faith for that to work. And then the kid steps forward and blah,
There you go, yeah.
How was that again?
Blah! Yeah.
Anyway, this would happen in Hammer films. The guy picks up a couple of pokers from the fireplace. Here's a cross, Dracula. Oh, it's like...
Exactly. Actually, I kind of liked what was it? Was it Dracula 2000? Was that the name of it? Where the whole thing was the cross affected Dracula specifically when they raised the cross at the guy who used to be in House MD. I forget his name.
Hugh Laurie.
No. His black subordinate. What was his name?
Oh,
you know who I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I can't think of his name.
He's like, the guy holds up the cross. He goes, "I'm an atheist." That doesn't mean anything.
Now I'm thinking of the joke from Love at First Bite, where the Van Helsing grandson or whatever holds up the Star of David, and then Dracula's, oh wait, no, it's the other one, isn't it?
No,
what do you call it? Not believing in God?
Oh no, absolutely they would believe in God, because if assuming the demonic aspect, even Lucifer believes in God.
Yeah, this whole thing, I mean, we could get into this for another thing, but there was a wonderful thing on the Blade stream where some scholars were pointing out that
Yes,
vampires,
Omar Epps. Thank you, Dante.
Omar Epps,
Yes.
thank you. That vampires are sort of the antithesis.
Oh, actually, David got it first, but Dante was the first one I saw.
I did hear someone on the Blade DVD explaining that they're sort of the antithesis of Jesus Christ because Christianity, right. Jesus Christ gave.
It's absolutely meant to be
gave his blood so that we gave his blood so that we would have eternal life. Vampires take our blood so they can have eternal life.
There's also a whole thing 3 days in the crypt before they rise as a vampire.
Exactly, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's all meant to be a blaspheme. A perversion of everything related to that. Yeah,
it makes sense. But yeah, this one, I don't know. Did you like this one? I think it's good. I've seen better hammers. I like Ingrid Pitt in anything, but
absolutely, and I like it for what it is.
Yeah,
but
I think Twins of Evil overshadows it big time. I think that's
and this is going to come up a lot as I go through, some of the ones I have on my list, but almost every lesbian vampire story is inspired by a retelling of or an interpretation of Carmilla. And we'll get to that. Yes. And none of them actually does it right. None of them just tells the story. None of them just tells it straight.
They always do their variations, but this happens with Dracula too often too, though. I mean, let's be honest.
Even when they call it Bram Stoker's Dracula, you're like, no, this is Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
I did have to read Carmilla for a literature class years back. It's a fascinating read. In fact, you get to find a very bizarre, like in the text, I think one of the characters has to read about the killing of a vampire, like how to kill a vampire from an old text, and that's in the Carmilla story. And it's a really bizarre, like old world look at what a vampire was even prior to when this story was being written. So it's interesting to read. I do recommend it for any vampire scholars.
So Dante says, so vamps are fallen angels. No. I mean, it depends on your interpretation of the specific lore. Because like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it is implied that vampire loses its soul. And
the person loses their soul, and then it's replaced by a demon. Yeah.
By a demon. So in that case, in the specific case of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer vampires, I would say, because that's what a demon is, a fallen angel. But most vampire lore is no, they are just undead. They're walking corpses. They have human intelligence. They have all of your memories. They do not have your soul, and they have no conscience.
What is scary about some of these vampire movies back in the day, and I think this gets lost sometimes with modern vampires, is that what you see with a vampire is, I think, an echo of a human being.
Yep. I'm going to get into that a lot, and you'll see that that's where it starts, and where it ends is someplace completely different. You'll see the domino effect as we go through them.
Like even when Christopher Lee's Dracula talks sometimes in some of the movies, in some of the lesser movies, like you could see at one point there was a person there. Sort of like how I look at Cybermen, actually. Like sometimes like there might have been a person there once, but it's not there. But sometimes that piece comes out every so often. Like even in this movie, Markala, she's quite charming in some scenes, and you kind of wish she wasn't what she was, but you know what I'm saying?
Mr. Londell says Coppola's Dracula was the closest to Stoker's work. Take out the love story, and it's even closer. As a matter of fact, I happen to have a fan edit called. Okay, so Francis Ford Coppola's is the title, or excuse me, Bram Stoker's Dracula is the title, and the tagline is "Love Never Dies." The fan edit is no, it really is Bram Stoker's Dracula. The tagline is "Love Never Was," and it literally is a fan edit that takes out all of the reincarnation love story, all the BS. So it really is much, much closer. So you're absolutely right about that.
It's interesting. When I took my literature in the occult class back in college, we read the book Dracula, but then we also watched Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula and had to do a comparison and contrast. So it was interesting.
Welcome, Nate. vampires drink blood to stay off the pain of death because they are not living or dead. They are the undead. And in that sense, they're more like meth heads, I think is what
Oh, funny.
say.
Yeah. That's how Blade kind of
it's
approached it. Yeah.
It's actually an interesting way to look at it, that vampires, that being dead, unless you do something to maintain that body, would decay, right? And for a vampire, there may be pain involved if you're not satiating it with blood. Why blood? Again, you go back to scripture because life is in the blood, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
But I've seen the same thing done with the there's two different. There's the Romero zombies, and then there's the other ones, the
old fashioned, the ones from Haiti,
the dead, yeah,
like that, yeah.
The ones eating the brains. That's actually in the lore of those movies, that they specifically eat the brains because for a short period of time it alleviates the pain of
being dead. Yeah, that was a Return of the Living Dead part 1. I think they explained that they were the I remember that. Yeah. All right. So we'll probably talk more about Vampire Diaries with your presentation. Here is Daughters of Darkness. Oh wow, this is not a British film. This is a French-Belgian production. You like that cover, huh? Kind of creepy.
Yeah.
This is
straight blade. That's kind of Yeah.
This is such a bizarre movie.
But when you consider all of the visuals that they could have used based on this film, they could have done better with
That's probably the American poster. I'll be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
That's probably for more of the European poster. This was on the Blue Underground DVD set, which I have. 2-disc special edition came with a bonus movie, Blood Spattered Bride, which could be another lesbian vampire picture.
It is. It's
I've
on
seen
my
it
list.
once. I think it's another retelling of Carmilla. I saw it once. I remember.
I'm telling you, they all are. Almost all of the lesbian vampire stories are retellings or interpretations or homages or pastiches of Carmilla.
In Blood Spattered Bride, I think he finds this woman on the beach, finds a snorkel, uncovers it, and it's a naked woman covered in sand. And I guess she was breathing through the snorkeler. And so what does he do? Come over to my castle for dinner where you can meet my wife. And I'm like, well, what does this happen?
Yeah.
Here, my wife will let you borrow her dress. This doesn't make any sense, but it's the early 70s, so I guess anything went back then. This is what counterculture.
Sorry, era. I missed a comment. Wanted to say hi to Kirby's 100.
Welcome,
Thanks
Kirby.
For being here.
And did you also say hi to Dante's Inferno?
I did.
And Geek Flag with Nate?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, this is not based on Carmilla. This is a retelling or maybe a reinvention. This is the Countess Elizabeth Báthory.
Yep.
Typically, I used in the past to pronounce it Bathory, but it's really Báthory. Okay. Hungarian countess who, if you know the legends, or actually, no, I guess not legends, it was fact. She thought that bathing in the blood of young women would keep her eternally young, so she was slaughtering a bunch of young women. This was a huge scandal back in the day. I think the royal family had to wall her up.
Yep.
In a room and just feed her food and keep her from ever seeing the outside again.
Yeah. She couldn't be put to death because she was royal, of noble birth. But in fact, she was actually related to Dracula. Like, I'm talking like real life. She was like great niece of Vlad Tepes.
That's very interesting. Okay. But here she is, played by Delphine Seyrig, a French actress. Nice looking woman. A lot of nice looking women in this film. I think she might be my favorite, though. John Carlin as Stefan Chilton. Danielle Aumont as Valerie Chilton, or his recent bride. And Andrea Rao as Ilona. I think that's how you say her name. Apparently, Andrea Rao was in many European Penthouse cover issues, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so here we are. This is Countess Elizabeth.
Write a little note down here. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This is Countess Elizabeth Báthory on holiday, and I guess, it's like, well, wow, Countess. I when I was young working here, I thought you came by and I let you stay, but you don't look like you've aged a day. You must have me mistaken with my mother or something. It's like,
right.
Vampire. I'm just saying, they don't say it out loud, but come on. Okay. there's the newly married couple. There's some shady stuff going on here too. Stefan keeps saying, "Oh, my mother will never approve of you. She'll never approve of you." And because he met this woman in Switzerland and they got married, but she'll never approve of you. And then, when he goes to the hotel, he says he gives a message to the bellhop with some money. He says, "Pretend to call my mother and say she's not there with this number." Something shady is going on. Later on in the movie, he calls mother, and it's a guy, and he's an older guy, and I don't know if maybe this guy had been groomed as a boy to do something else. And he says, "Well, this is just foolish. This can't work." And I'm like, I don't know what's going on there. So there's other stuff going on in this movie too, which is never fully explained. But this guy has a shady side too. There's some weird stuff going on here.
Yep.
And there we go. Countess Battery takes a shine to the to the young Valerie here.
Mm-hmm.
She almost tries running interference with the young couple because I think she wants her for herself, and she starts giving, I guess, at the time, typical feminist lines. Yes, I'm sure he's in love with you, and like all men, he wants to, mold you into his perfect slave.
The irony being, of course, that she is equally predatory.
Yes.
She's no better.
It's just
don't consider she's a mass murderer. She's much, much worse.
Yes. But like I said, some lovely women in this movie as well. Very creepy, though. It's funny because it takes place at this seaside hotel in Europe. I'm not sure where. Maybe it's in the French countryside, but it's by the shore, and it's in the middle of winter. And you're thinking nobody's going to these seaside hotels in the middle of winter, right? Might be a good time to go to one.
I'll tell you, Netta and I went to a resort up in Wisconsin, right on the lake, in the wintertime. It's wonderful. Really sitting by the fire and the whole bit. Yeah. It's kind of nice.
Anyway, she introduced herself to the young couple and starts Stefan they start talking about Elizabeth Battery and how she would, do horrible things to the young women, and they're just not even showing it; they're just describing what she did to the young women. And it's horrifying, and it's a very creepy scene. And deaths happen, murders happen in this movie. In fact, when the young couple arrived in town, they found a young woman drained of blood. The detectives want to know what's going on here.
Right.
I'm sure the Countess here had nothing to do with it, right? But anyway, I don't know. I don't know, the actress here, though, she has this. Her English is great, but she has that slight French accent.
Oh yeah,
is lovely. But
she's got that. You see this in, especially in pre-code films, late 60s, early 70s. You look at her and you see that Marlene Dietrich look.
Kind of, yeah.
And you're like, yeah, she's probably the lesbian, right? Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I see it.
She could probably seduce anyone she wanted, though. I'll say that.
True. But
good little horror movie. Not quite sure about.
And I'm going to come back around to that whole Marlene Dietrich look, because a film that draws a great deal of inspiration from this one, I will be talking about later on. Starring Catherine Deneuve.
Yes. Here we go. Their lips are moist and very, very red. Vampires, the Ultimate Lust from 1974.
Well, this is why you called this an oral history, right? Straight girls go to heaven. Lesbians go down.
I guess. I guess the idea is, well, they're vampires. They're evil anyway, right? So they can do what they want.
Right.
I made the joke with you. Maybe it's getting tired at this point, but if you're a young man, if it's a male vampire, you have to worry about him seducing your girlfriend, and if it's a female vampire, you have to worry about her seducing your girlfriend. Okay.
Exactly.
Marion Morris as Fran. Yeah, her name is Fran. Anulka as Miriam. I'm not going to butcher her last name.
Jubinska.
Okay, Jubinska. Okay. Murray Brown as Ted, Brian Deacon as John, Sally Falker as Harriet. Okay, John and Harriet are the young married couple. Again, this is becoming a theme. Young married couple.
Yeah. I've got
on
a
the
whole
road
chapter on that one. Yeah.
with their camper van. All right, they're on the road with their camper van.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Ted, who I guess is a British businessman, or maybe he's just taking a trip. I don't know what he's doing. They don't explain it. Maybe he's on a business trip in a couple of days for a convention. He's walking about town. I don't know. So there we go. Yeah, there's the young couple. I guess they're on their honeymoon, maybe.
I like you, Dante. I like the way you think. Skis.
So there we go. Here are the two lovely young vampire women who are a couple. The movie starts out kind of weird. They're like in this castle and they're naked on the bed doing things with each other, and someone comes in with a gun and shoots them to death. And then they die.
That's rude.
Yes. And next thing we see are these two. They're back again. They're on the road. They're hiding out in the woods, and one comes out and says, "I need a ride." It's usually the brunette here, Fran. I need a ride, and it's usually a young British man, or they all seem to be British. These traveling men. And can you take me? Can you take me back to the castle I'm staying at, or the huge estate I'm staying? And they say, "Okay." And this here is Ted. This is the first guy we see. Who I think had previously. Oh, there's a little watermark there. We'll skip that. But yeah, I should have paid more attention. But he was what do you call it? He was he gives her a ride, but prior to meeting her, he saw a car accident with a wrecked car and some guy in the car, and he was drained of blood. Okay. The young couple decide to park their camper van in front of the old estate that looks abandoned, except the girl says, I swore I saw a woman running about here earlier or something. Later on, she meets her face to face, looks at the painting she's drawing and says, and like draws some, like does some mimicry thing on her forehead and says, "By this mark, I'll find you later." That's usually a reason for you to get out of there, pack up the camper, park it somewhere else. But why not just stay at the old abandoned creepy estate for a week and see what happens? I don't understand. There's no seduction going on here with this young couple. It's just bad stuff's going to happen. The seduction is actually going on with Ted here. Typically, these young women, they'll bring a guy back, fill them up with some very tasty wine they have in their basement. And they have a full wine cellar. They're giving them some very tasty wine, and it's usually very charming. And then the guy gets drunk, and that's usually when the knife comes out and they start slicing him up and start, draining it. I don't see any fangs coming out. There's my picture.
There's your thumbnail. Yeah.
With Ted here, though, he wakes up the next morning feeling kind of drained, and there's a big cut on his arm, which he figured he'd cut on some broken glass. Fran actually likes having sex with him. I think that's why she's keeping him alive, and her partner's like, "You're playing a very dangerous game. We just got to finish him off." I think she actually she likes Ted there. All right, so she doesn't want to kill him right off, at least not right away, because she's having a good time with him. The other men, they just hate them, though. It's usually, "I can taste what vintage this is and tell you exactly where it's from," and just it's like. And this is my comment in the beginning here. What was it? Men are stupid. I need to paraphrase that. Men are stupid around beautiful women, or at least.
Well, there isn't enough blood for both ends. That's the problem.
Yeah, there you go. But and I feel kind of bad for the men, because they're usually being gentlemen, at least till they get the drinks in them, and then they start going after the women, and then of course that's when they start slicing and dicing. This is, I think, my favorite of the three. It's actually a fairly chilling ghost story. You can also catch this for free streaming on Tubi, which is interesting since it's not quite there, but it's almost bordering on softcore porn with some of the love scenes.
What year was this?
This was 74. This was fairly explicit. I mean, you don't see anything. I don't think you see like full frontal, but it gets there. There's some erotic scenes in this movie. But yeah, this was 74. It was available on Blu-ray from Blue Underground for a while. I think now Arrow has this as part of a set that you can get. And I think Blue Underground also has a release of Daughters of Darkness. And Daughters of Darkness you can catch streaming on Shudder if you have a subscription to Shudder. All right, that's all. That's all I got.
That's all you got, huh?
Watch out for vampire women.
I guess so.
See, say your prayers. That's what the men in the what do you call it? Vampire lovers did, right?
Yep.
That's what they did.
Exactly.
But the men of the late 60s, early 70s, they didn't have those scruples. They're beyond that. And look what happens to you, huh? You want to remove that?
Say, when the blood leaves the big head, you're in trouble.
Yes. Do I just remove this from studio? Or
yeah,
I
can do that.
When the blood leaves the big head, yes.
Absolutely.
All right. So hope you guys enjoyed my little presentation. Why don't you go?
I did, absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and share mine. Now, I'm going to be cut off from chat now, so I'm going to rely on you guys to keep an eye on that.
I'll be in there.
Let me know, feel free to, stop me and comment if someone's got something cool to say, or if someone's addressing me directly, let me know. Where is
Pack up the camper and park it in Texas. That's someone has never seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No.
I realized that I won't.
Maybe he has.
Share this. How am I going to share this? I've got to. Here's what I have to do.
Upload it. Dude.
I have to share my desktop and then play. Share screen, entire screen. You don't need my volume because you're already hearing me.
It's funny. There's a line in that Daughters of Darkness where Elizabeth says, "All I want is to be loved," she says. And I'm like, I want to scream at the TV, "I'll love you."
I'm sure there's a joke about getting eaten, but let's,
okay.
We'll save that for after I've had a little bit more to drink. Let me, how do I do this? Slideshow. Okay. You see in my cover page?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Lesbian vampires. But I think we get the idea.
I hear Austin Powers' voice in my head saying, "Yeah, baby."
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
All right, let's keep
So the lesbian vampire is a product of Gothic literature, right? Yes. Gothic era of literature saw the groundswell of female authors, Anne Radcliffe, Mary Shelley, the Bronte sisters. Unsurprisingly, this correlates with a female majority of the lead characters in Gothic stories, creating the enduring image of the Gothic heroine. At least for these works, women were the primary audience for the genre. I guess you could say, written by women for women, right?
Yes.
Christabel by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, an unfinished ballad that tells the story of its title character and a mysterious woman she meets in the woods, Geraldine. The nature of Geraldine's otherness is not named, but there are signs that she is a supernatural being. The intimate relationship between Geraldine and Christabel was almost certainly an influence for Sheridan Le Fanu's when he wrote Carmilla. And speaking of which, Carmilla by Le Fanu, a novella is a haunting atmospheric tale of a lonely young woman named Laura who forms a relationship with the mysterious Carmilla. The homoeroticism of the text is not explicit, as one would imagine for the time period, but the undertones are overpowering. While Carmilla is certainly the predator and Laura the prey, at times it's unclear who is seducing whom. Both women seem to have genuine feeling for each other, despite Carmilla's nefarious intentions and Laura's complete inability to truly understand her companion. It's a story of obsessive love and vampirism, whose imagery is reimagined again and again throughout later adaptations. Now, I want to elaborate here a bit more. There's going to be several common themes. I've already pointed out that Carmilla is the archetype. This establishes the cornerstone for the lesbian vampire, and just about every lesbian vampire story after this draws on it at least to some degree. it at least is going to use the characters' names, imply that this is, Carmilla from this story, or it's going to have some allusions to it. A comparison can also be drawn between Carmilla and all of these lesbian vampire stories and Paradise Lost. Why do I say that? Because there is a huge number of so-called scholars who read Paradise Lost and say Lucifer is the hero of the story. No, he's not. He's the villain who thinks he's the hero.
Yes.
And you fell for it. Same thing with most of these, and I say most because things change as time goes by. It is very clear that Le Fanu was attempting to, show a what could be conceived of or could be imagined as a loving, seductive, romance, or at least that's really what it is. I mean, you can call it a friendship. This is beyond friendship, right? But it's very clear that the undertone is, but this is dysfunctional. There's, I'm going to use the word grooming going on here. That's what these vampires are doing. They are grooming their prey. And oftentimes it is prey. There's two reasons that these vampires are coming after. One is companionship, the whole seduction thing. And the other is it's just simply wolf coming after a lamb, right? That's the ones you see when it doesn't matter to them if it's female or male. They turn on their feminine wiles, and it's just what they need to do to, get close enough and pounce. They are monsters. And from their point of view, they think this is self-preservation. It's what I have to do to survive. Oh, poor me, But don't be mistaken. This is not, this isn't, that. But so the lesbian vampire in film obviously, derives from this. After Carmilla, there's other prose, that come out after. Obviously, Stoker drew on Carmilla when he wrote Dracula. Specifically, I think it was a bigger influence on the first part of his book, which was published separately, Dracula's Guest. So when Universal was looking to do a sequel to Dracula's Daughter, 1936. Yep. Following the success of 1931's classic adaptations of Dracula and Frankenstein, Universal Studios started churning out sequels, wanting to create a female Dracula figure comparable to the Bride of Frankenstein. Dracula's Daughter was released in 1936. The title character, Countess Maria Zaleska, hopes that her father's death will free her from the curse of vampirism. When that proves not to be the case, she turns to modern psychology to help her overcome her bloodlust. Predating Dark Shadow's Barnabas Collins, who many credit as being the first reluctant vampire, by about 30 years, Myra is perhaps the actual first screen vampire to openly long to be normal, have a mortal life, and express regret over the lives she must take to preserve her own. See what I'm saying? Yeah, however, the language of the film almost makes you wonder whether she's really suffering from vampirism or just lesbianism. The vampirism seems allegorical as Myra tries to fight her ghastly desires that consistently take the form of attractive women. While reportedly less inspired by Carmilla and more by Bram Stoker's Dracula's Guest, Myra embodies the same otherness as Carmilla, the female other, the lesbian other, the vampire, the foreigner.
Right.
Weiss writes that The lesbian vampire is killed because of her attractive sexuality as well as her lesbianism. Seemingly sexually liberated from the restraints of Hollywood, the lesbian vampire film appears to allow the woman's desire, but always enacts its punishment. Now, of course, Weiss writes from a very, second, maybe third wave feminist perspective, but gets closer to the truth than I think she even realizes because, this is a predator. I don't care if it's a lesbian predator or like literally a wolf preying on sheep. Yes, this is a predator and it requires punishment. I understand that you might be able to understand her thoughts and her thirst.
Sympathy for the devil.
It's sympathy for the devil. That's exactly what it is.
I love the poster though. She gives you that weird feeling.
Exactly. Queerness.
They knew what they were doing back then.
Exactly. Queerness is portrayed as unnatural and predatory. Yes, it is. I believe this is an escalation of predatory seduction and more of a more hetero kind. You look, again, I don't care if it's Dracula going after, Mina, or, if it's, Carmilla going after Laura, or who it is, it's predatory.
Yeah, you find predatories on many various ends of the spectrum, right? I mean,
yep. Now we get into the Karstein trilogy, the Hammer Studios, the Vampire Lovers, Lust for a Vampire, Twins of Evil, right? Yeah, so I'm going to cover a little bit of the same ground. The Vampire Lovers, 1970. Yep, absolutely. The first of what would be known as the Karstein trilogy, a series of films that were increasingly loosely inspired by Le Fanu's tale. In many ways, the first film to sort of be faithful to the source material. Carmilla is positioned as a worldly, mature woman in contrast to Emma, the Laura character, who is decidedly naive, sheltered, and virginal. On the surface, their flirtation seems innocent enough, despite the viewer's knowledge of Carmilla's true nature. Like Le Fanu's character, this Carmilla also seems to develop genuine feelings for Emma. But Carmilla's plans for them to spend eternity together are thwarted. Carmilla is an unnatural creature, both because she is a vampire and because she's a lesbian. It is worth noting that while she does also briefly seduce the male butler, she does so only out of necessity or convenience, depending on how you look at it. And she does not appear to feel the same pleasure she does in her interactions with Emma. So again, there's this idea that because this is the, I keep comparing the vampire to the wolf and the prey, the sheep, right? But there's a difference because wolves procreate naturally, right? Whereas vampires procreate by choosing from their prey someone to turn into. A mate in theory, but really just a slave. See, again, it's the perversion of that kind of thing. So you're literally playing with your food,
So, Mr. Landell's Groovy Movies has a question, which I may address, or maybe you want to address. So, all these movies attempt to soften the debauchery and loathsome nature of vampires. I think what they do is they show how the nature of the vampire can be attractive. I don't think, I'll say even up until here, at least this movie in particular, no, vampires are still monsters. They're anti-god. They're unnatural creatures. They have to be killed and to free our loved ones. So they're still recognized as evil, these evil unnatural things, but there is an attractiveness to them. Yes. I think it just shows them as,
you're absolutely right. At this point, they're, and this could be a whole separate conversation, but you almost have to, think about this for a second. The attractiveness of death. There's a reason that the French call orgasm la petite mort, right? The little death.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
And
They're way ahead of us. No, I'm sorry.
And anyone who's ever, stood up on a tall building, not feeling like self-deleting or anything, but you get that feeling like, wow, what would it be like to just leap off? There is that weird, death is attractive kind of a thing. Hell, look at any emo, I mean, there's, there's that whole element to it. And you see it very much in Dracula, and it builds out of that. These stories are far more in your face about it. Not only is the prey within the film being lured in by the sexuality, but the audience is being drawn in, right? And it was like the one you were talking about. They get the guys drunk, they get them, they have their way with them, and then they pull out the razor and and that's a horror element, because how much more horrific is it? It's the jump scare. How does the jump scare work? Everything seems fine. Everything's calm. Maybe they get their voice really, really, really quiet. So you have to lean in, and then and then
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is too. So again, it's this great analogy. It's like a fishing lure, right? The sexy vampire is the shiny lure, and when you get in there, it hooks you and you're dead. So, but there you go.
D. Pensek has this thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't the notion of repressed sexuality one of Victorian Edwardian times the aim of Stoker's novel?
See, I know a lot of people say that, but that is putting way too fine a point on it. You have to. There is this impression that the Victorians were so repressed. But when you dig a little bit below the surface, they weren't near as repressed as you think they were. There was what the ideal of the society was, and the way things really were behind closed doors. Yeah, they were not that repressed.
There was a lot of I think during that era too, there was the spread of a lot of STDs, and that was also part of where that came from. More so than maybe even a religious aspect. I think syphilis was a big thing, right?
Yep.
But Geek Flag says it is only on the edge of death does one feel the rush of life. That reminds me of a famous of a scene from an episode of Millennium where a demon is making this guy so miserable by doing little things that eventually the guy just decides, oh, I'm gonna jump out a window, and he says, and it's only when the human beings see real in the act with jumping out of the window realize the full freedom of living does he realize his life is coming to an end. That's exactly
right. And what's interesting is one could speculate if the blood is life, especially for a vampire, is it possible that when they're drinking, they get that kind of a rush? And so just like that line in Blade, you're an addict. That's what you are. You're an addict. Lust for a Vampire, 1971, Marcella's descendant Carmilla adopts the name of her ancestor to seduce and murder her way through an exclusive girls' school.
Have you seen this movie?
Tell me this isn't a lesbian vampire. Come on.
Yeah. It's not a lesbian vampire movie. She's seducing men. There's romance between men.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. And I think it might actually be the actual Carmilla from the other movie, but she has to be reincarnated. They have to put her spirit into a fresh body, and she pretends that she's the descendant,
which is the Doctor Who conceit, so that you can have a different actress. Yeah.
Because Ingrid Pitt didn't want to come back for this one. Maybe she read the script. I'm being mean. There are a lot of problems with this. I think Peter Cushing was supposed to play a part, but I think his wife had recently passed away, so they got Ralph Bates. Yeah. He's a younger actor, but he's acting like an older man, and I'm not a big Ralph Bates fan. I'm sure he's been in good stuff, but I've not liked his work in Hammer movies. But here we go.
Twins of Evil.
Love this movie.
You do?
Yes. It's one of my favorite hammers.
Story concerns
top 5 hammers. Actually, I'll say that in my
the
book.
story concerns sisters Maria and Frida Gellhorn, played by identical twin Playboy playmates.
Yes,
Mary Collinson and Madeline Collinson.
Nice looking ladies.
It is apparently a prequel to the first film. It depicts a member of the Karstein family, Marcella's descendant, the evil Count Karstein, as living instead of vampiric, and the set design and costumes give the film a 17th century look and feel, thus resulting in each of the 3 films being set in different centuries. Unlike the previous 2 entries, this in the series, this film contains only brief lesbian elements. Actually, that shot in the upper right is about as close as you get.
Yes.
I hope they don't imply that there's anything going on between the twin sisters.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, I don't think so. Brilliant horror. What the idea behind the twin sisters is one is kind of innocent, whereas one likes the dark side. That's what attracts her to going to Count Karnstein's castle and all that. What's interesting about this movie is there are 2 villains. There's the evil Count Karnstein that will eventually become a vampire, and there's also the Peter Cushing character who's the head of a Puritan Brotherhood, like witch burners, like with the full like pilgrim-esque regalia, and it's fascinating because I don't know if we've seen Puritans in other Hammer movies, but I like seeing them in this one because on the one hand, I understand that even before all the stuff happening with Count Karnstein, there are men in the village finding up dead with bite marks. So there might be other vampires running around that we don't even know about. So this is what's stirring up this Puritan Brotherhood, but they're like really like he gets angry at the Collins twins when they show up because their parents died, and they said, and they're wearing green He says, "Oh, your Uncle Gustav wouldn't like that because you should be wearing black." And it says, "But we wore black for like the first 3 months." Yes, but that's not going to be good enough for Mr. Goose. For Uncle Gustav.
Exactly.
You're wearing bright green. And he's like, "What are you peacocks? Birds of paradise?" And he's just Peter Cushing is really just
he knows how to eat the
scenery. I typically would say, like with Vampire Lovers, I didn't think Peter Cushing should have been in that because I just feel he's kind of being wasted. Here he's not being wasted because he's playing a very different character than a Baron Frankenstein or a Van Helsing. It's a very different type. In fact, they called the character in this one the anti-Van Helsing because Van Helsing is actually he's very sympathetic to people. He's actually very caring to, especially the young women.
And interestingly, less religious, more scientific.
But not anti-religious, because he admits he understands there's the religious aspect to these.
Hey, Boomer, D. Penchik wants to know what the title of the film is that you're talking about.
Oh, Twins of Evil.
Twins of Evil. It's funny, there's a reference to one of the Castlevania games, Portrait of Ruin, where I think 2 of the villains are these twin vampire sisters. One has an innocent look and one is not, more seductive. And that's an obvious reference to this movie, Twins of Evil. You should watch the trailer. And if you listen to the title theme for Justice League and the title theme for Twins of Evil, it's like they altered it on Justice League. They were obviously paying an homage to this title track for the cartoon series Justice League. But anyway, I'm talking about Twins of Evil. Another stream, maybe. We'll talk about that.
So, now
you did both of them. You did both of them. Good.
Yep. 2 films challenging heterosexual marriage. Daughters of Darkness from 1971, a joint venture of Belgium, France, West Germany, United States, and Canada.
The United States.
By a whole bunch of companies. Yeah. In Daughters of Darkness, the vampire is not Carmilla, but Elizabeth Bathory, a fictionalized version of the infamous 16th century countess who murdered young women and supposedly bathed in their blood to stay young.
Yeah.
In a reversal of what was talked about in Blood and Roses, Elizabeth uses her husband, Stefan, to get to the wife, Valerie. The honeymoon phase of this marriage, of his marriage to Valerie, is over almost immediately as Stefan becomes increasingly sadistic, getting off on seeing women's dead bodies, recounting tales of them being tortured and beating his wife. Valerie becomes frightened of her husband, and Elizabeth steps in to offer some insightful views on the couple's relationship. He dreams of making you what every man wants, every woman a slave, a thing, an object of pleasure. Note, this sounds like genuine concern by a feminist with underlying misandry, but it's actually opportunistic manipulation. Elizabeth is no less abusive than Stefan. When Valerie runs off with Elizabeth, it's not liberation. Valerie has no will of her own. She is so obviously being controlled by Elizabeth. Now, The Blood-Spattered Bride, 1974, a Spanish production by Morgana Films. Once again, the story begins with a newlywed couple. Right off the bat, we get the sense that the bride, Susan, has some subconscious fear about her husband, which are quickly revealed to be entirely founded. The sexual violence makes the film uncomfortable to watch at times, but Carmilla is soon haunting Susan's dream and encouraging her to murder her husband, long before physically appearing in the home. When she does, Susan is even more drawn to her, and pretty soon the pair are embarking on a misandrous rampage. Notably, this film is the only one we'll be talking about tonight that actually uses the word lesbian. Just
Blood-Spattered Bride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it once. It's funny. It came as a bonus film with the Daughters of Darkness. So it's interesting that you're putting them both together here.
Yeah. I know very little about this one. The Shiver of the Vampire, 1971, French film, drew heavily on Gothic imagery, crumbling castles, decaying cemeteries, women in flowing gowns. This was about the only picture that I could show. Everything I found was like...
What country is this?
French.
Oh, okay. All right.
That doesn't look French.
No, I mean, it was a French-made film. Huh. The woman on the right is Asian. I think that's the most clothes she wears in the whole film. Yeah.
The United Nations of horror. That's what Geek.
Yeah, exactly.
You find horror movies and ghost stories in general. Every culture has them. It's yeah.
Yep.
Oh, just Franco, I've been meaning to watch this one, Vampiros Lesbos.
Vampiros Lesbos, 1971 West German and Spanish film.
Putting rather fine a point on it, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Multiple production companies. The film rejected the Gothic aesthetic and traditional vampire tropes. In Vampiros Lesbos, the vampire performs burlesque, in which she seems to be seducing her own image in a mirror as opposed to having no reflection.
Interesting.
She spends her days sunbathing on the beach instead of sleeping in a coffin.
And she doesn't burst into flame?
No, yeah.
Is she sparkly too?
Well, from a certain point of view.
Fair though, the burst in your flames of sunlight that came later. Like in Dracula, he can walk around in daylight. They're just not at full strength in daytime.
Actually, the being destroyed by sunlight actually does come from before. Well, yeah, it comes after the writing of Dracula, but it comes with the first film interpretation of Dracula, which Nosferatu. Of course is Nosferatu.
And I like it. It's interesting.
It was just done as a convenience of film, but it kind of caught on.
Yeah,
But it should not be, it's not part of the whole vampire thing. Even Coppola's Dracula's walking around in sunlight.
Unlike Hammer's first Dracula movie, where I think Van Helsing gets Dracula going in the sunlight, and that's how he kills him. That too. But yeah,
exactly. The Velvet Vampire of 1971 from New World Pictures and directed by Stephanie Rothman, the only film mentioned tonight that was directed by a woman. Lee and his wife Susan accept the invitation of a mysterious Diane to visit her secluded desert estate. Tensions arise when the couple, unaware that Diane is a vampire, realize that they are both objects of the pale temptress's seduction. Fascination, 1979. I know nothing about this film. Another French film. A runaway criminal breaks into an eerie chateau, taking its two frightened chambermaids hostage. As night falls, a group of mysterious aristocratic women arrive, and the criminal begins to realize the women are hiding a sinister secret. Now, I feel like at this point now, we are just getting into sexiness for sex's sake and horror for horror's sake. And I don't think there's a great deal of thought going into the themes anymore.
I like that cover though. That's the poster.
Yeah. French poster. So
see, I want to watch this movie now. I'm sorry, I know you're talking it down, but I'm curious now.
Yeah. I hope you're keeping notes. Well, you can always go back and rewatch.
I can always go back. Fascination.
Now, this is the one that first caught my attention, got me aware of the concept of the female vampire. Yeah, it started with this, and then I went back and read Carmilla and so forth. The Hunger, 1983, Miriam Blaylock, played by the stunning Catherine Deneuve, is presented as bisexual. Unlike most of the entries in this list, Miriam is less predator out of sustenance than a lonely immortal seeking companionship. Miriam has taken many lovers, both male and female, over the course of her very long life, and seems to have felt equal, genuine love for each of them. She seduces Sarah, Susan Sarandon, as a replacement for her previous companion, the rapidly aging John Blaylock, played by David Bowie. The Hunger is most closely related to Daughters of Darkness, Daughters of Darkness than any other lesbian vampire film. Miriam's fashionable elegance is surely influenced by the Daughter of Darkness's Countess Bathory. The two films also have very similar endings. Miriam turns Sarah into a vampire without her consent. When she is destroyed, Sarah is set free from her control and takes her place, carrying on her legacy and her vampirism. Now, again, many people will point to this and go, yeah, the true love, this is in non-horror circles, in just LGB circles, this is pointed to as, the apex of lesbian cinema. That's hugely problematic because you, again, are just ignoring the subtext for, the surface veneer, right? She appears to be very much in love with these people, but what this synopsis leaves out is that the reason she is replacing David Bowie, because he is rapidly aging, is that every single one of her mates this happens to. She continues to live forever. They live for a long time, hundreds of years, but then they begin to rapidly age and die. Well, I got to stop myself. They don't die. That's the problem. You find out, and this is, a spoiler for a 30-some-year-old film, but it's important for the context here. She doesn't kill them. You'd think, okay, you're suffering. I'm going to put the stake through your heart, cut off your head, whatever it is you do to kill these vampires. No, she can't do that because she loves them so much. So she puts them in a coffin and leaves them in her basement. Still alive, just lying there, basically buried alive.
Yikes.
Yes.
How many?
And yeah, a bunch. And at the end, what happens is they end up coming back and tearing her apart. That's how she's destroyed. So it's not clear if Sarah, is going to go through the same thing David Bowie did and rapidly age in a couple hundred years, or, if she's going to now take, the mantle of Miriam and continue to live forever. I don't know. It's never established, but it very much is. Again, she's turned into a vampire against her will. She has no agency here. It's assault. There is no romance. There is nothing, loving about this kind of grooming behavior. But this is where, again, the people are having sympathy for the devil. They see, the demon as the hero. That's kind of the problem. But one slide that I left out here. I was all set to share the very key scene from this, actually taken from Siskel and Ebert's review of the film, how I first found out about this film. Very it's a hot seduction scene. It's Miriam playing the piano. She's playing Lakshmi, talking about, it's a song sung by two women. And Sarah says, is it a love story? Well, I said it was a story. It was a song sung by two women. She says, well, it sounds like a love story. No, I guess it kind of is. And she's drinking wine and she spills it on her shirt, and her shirt that she's clearly not wearing a bra underneath. And so she's got to take off her top, and then they kiss. And yeah, wow. Let me tell you. But it seems out of place with the rest of the movie. But, if you don't want to bother with the movie, you can go check out the pub. You can probably find just the scene if you want to. Nausea.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let me back up real quick. So, I must have taken my notes off here. Between like the early 80s and like 1990, going into the 90s, you get far less of the good vampire stories, and they tend to just go for the lesbian smut. But at least Nausea is it's kind of like an island of a good story still within all of that. Nausea is a spirit, if not in name, a retelling, in spirit, if not in name, a retelling of Dracula's daughter. In addition to the plot similarities and visual parallels, the film's connection to its predecessor is furthered by the use of black and white film and footage of Bela Lugosi, though it's footage from White Zombie and not actually Dracula, to represent the Count.
Right.
Like Myra, Nausea hopes that her father's death will release her from the curse of vampirism. In a scene that directly mirrors Dracula's daughter, Nausea plays the piano while telling Renfield, things will be different. He's gone. I'm free and I can live a new life. I'll be happy.
Is that David Lynch in the bottom corner?
Yes, it is. I'll get to that.
I know that guy.
Yep. Of course, it's not as simple as she hopes. However, Nausea ultimately succeeds where Myra could not, albeit at a cost. She transfers her life force into the body of Cassandra, a woman who is in love with Nausea's brother, Edgar. When Van Helsing and company show up to destroy the vampire, it is Nausea's body, but Cassandra's spirit that is vanquished. Even though the bisexual vampire Nausea lives on in Cassandra, she and Edgar are married, and she is apparently content with being her brother's wife and sacrificing her identity to live a normal mortal life. Additionally, the female object of Nausea's affection, Lucy, whom the narrative implies is a repressed lesbian, reconciles with her husband despite their marital troubles. So while the ending is happy in a sense that Nausea gets the mortal life she wanted, there's still a distinct sense that she loses part of herself along the way. Like her soul. She has to sacrifice these people to do this, right? The film is also noticeable for featuring a morgue receptionist, played by David Lynch. He's not the director of this film. I don't think he has any writing credit on it, but it's got his earmarks all over it. He had to have been... Yeah, he must have had something to do with it. He must have had some influence. Besides just being an actor, I don't know. This is just a real quick one. This one barely qualifies, but you can't really talk without, Embrace of the Vampire from 1995. This one is just an honorary mention. Not strictly a lesbian vampire film so much as a vampire film with a hot lesbian seduction scene. Alyssa Milano and Rebecca Frati, lots of Milano nudity.
What?
That's, again, go to the hub to check out those scenes.
Yeah.
It's not that great a movie. There is a European cut and an American cut, but I think it's mostly for violence. It's not for the sex. The sex is
okay.
All there. So like I said, the late 90s through like the first decade of the 21st century, the lesbian vampire is mostly relegated to softcore porn. Really, it's really what it is. Softcore porn. It's just there's no story there. It's just, hey, look at the lesbians. So now we get to
Scene said before she turned into a nutcase.
Yeah, exactly.
Moth Diaries. Why do these actors look familiar to me? Actresses.
Moth Diaries 2011 puts a meta spin on Carmilla, set in an all-girls boarding school. The protagonist believes her best friend is a victim of a vampire after reading Le Fanu's novella.
Okay, interesting. Like a Fright Night sort of thing, like where she's
right. Exactly. The Curse of Styria, or Angels of Darkness, 2014. Troubled and lonely young Lara must choose between being tamed and succumbing to the patriarchal world of men, or joining Carmilla in her wild, dark world, where young girls are only saved from oppression by death. Lara instead cuts out her own path between the two by refusing to kill herself to follow Carmilla. Yeah, now we're starting to move into the age of streaming and woke.
Is this, what year was this?
This was 2014.
Yeah, that's the year where it really started to. Yeah, in fact, we'll be coming on the 10 years of this stuff soon.
Exactly.
I mean, it did kind of leak in 2013, but it was really 2014 when it all took off. Yeah, okay, but it's because it's the anniversary of a certain event. But we'll get into that in the stream.
Carmilla, 2014-2016. The story takes place at the fictional Silas College in Styria, where the idealistic Lara Hollis tries to save her missing roommate, only to unearth a secret world of vampires, monsters, and angry gods. What? She and Carmilla are initially at odds, but the show gives the legendary vampires much more depth of character than any previous version of her story. Of course, it's a series, so you would have more character development. This Carmilla is given the chance to grow, not only through her relationship with Laura, but also as a character in her own right. Again, that'll happen when you have a series. She gets to right some of her wrongs, save the day, and get the girl, even though she doesn't quite fit comfortably into her role as a heroine. We get to watch her relationship with Laura grow organically while they face impossible challenges and try to save the world. With all narrative development that straight romances have been afforded for years, here we see the modern tendency to show sympathy for the devil and try to turn monsters into anti-heroes. That's what woke is.
Wow, this looks just like Cagney and Lacey if they were young vampires. Or I don't know.
I haven't actually watched this show.
This looks ridiculous to me. Sorry, I was laughing.
But some of these scenes kind of remind me of what's the name of that Canadian show about it was about a vampire, but in that world, vampires are fairies, and
what?
Like all the different monsters are different kinds of fae, and she's like a succubus or something like that.
What?
I'm trying to remember. Somebody in the chat's got to know what I'm talking about. It was on the Sci-Fi Channel. An edited version was on the Sci-Fi Channel, I should say. Oh, well, I can't remember.
Do they does Carmilla have flashbacks on this series back to when men were more sexist? Like,
I would imagine.
You want to be a lady detective, Carmilla? Don't make me laugh. You know, that sort of thing. It's just, I don't know.
I would imagine.
I can't do this anymore.
I did miss one in my notes. Oh, I did leave off one. Crypt of the Vampire from 1962. I meant to share this one specifically for your sake, because here's the synopsis. Italian film produced by MEC
I
Cinematografica,
might have seen it. Yeah,
featuring Christopher Lee.
I've seen it. Yes.
Laura, a tragic young heroine who is living under the shadow of a sinister ancestor who put a curse on future generations of the Karnstein family.
Yes.
Laura's father, played by Christopher Lee, is afraid that Laura is unknowingly possessed by this ancestor and bringing her curse to life, while in many ways the film veers off of in some bizarre territory. In others, it remains very true to the source material. A carriage accident lands a beautiful but mysterious young woman named Juba in Laura's lap. And pretty soon the two are spending their days frolicking in the garden and gazing into each other's eyes.
Yeah, there you go.
Some highly suggestive scenes in which Laura leads Juba by the hand into her bedroom. The seduction is certainly mutual. The lesbian subcontext is so overpowering, it only barely qualifies as subtext. The only reason I brought that up at all was because Christopher Lee and the Karnstein character. It's not a Hammer film.
It's not.
But it does predate.
It does predate what? Sorry.
It does predate Vampire Lovers by 8 years.
It was probably but Hammer was still making movies at that time, and there was a joke that the Italian filmmakers saw Horror of Dracula and decided to remake the movie 100 times or something. But no, and this was probably an attempt at making a movie like a Hammer movie, and let's get the big star of the Hammer movies to be in it. Oh, they've not done Carmilla yet. Let's do that one. That's probably what happened there. I have seen it. It wasn't bad. It came in my Eurocrypto Christopher Lee set. There were some turkeys in there. That wasn't one of them. But again, it was also on some level forgettable. Maybe I should rewatch it. It was probably one of the better movies in that set, though. But yeah.
But so that's why I bring it up. I feel like that could be seen as like the first. So that would make 5 Karnstein films, if you count that one.
Yeah.
You
can't though, because it's not Hammer.
Because it's not Hammer, really?
It's like you can't count Never Say Never Again as a Bond movie.
Honestly, you can't count anything with Daniel Craig in it as a Bond film.
Don't get me started on that. That'll be a conversation with Michael French someday when you have him on
Yes,
the show
it will.
Bond.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Speaking of Michael French,
actually, I should probably be kinder to Never Say Never Again since. Never mind. Go ahead. Speaking of Michael French, yes, go ahead.
He'll be joining us in 2 weeks for a watch party of the Star Wars
Holiday Special. Yes.
So we have previously done a watch party of the Thank the Maker cut. I have found a new, 2.0 version of the Thank the Maker cut.
Is Jar Jar in it?
No. Actually, I take that back. He did incorporate some stuff.
Oh no!
So he might have done.
That's what that special needs. It needs some Gungan additions to make it complete.
I've heard of this, David. Check out Flesh and Blood: The Hammer Heritage of Horror. Yeah.
Here's how you make roast Gungan. It'll be an Imperial thing. How you make roast Gungan for
exactly. But yeah. So there you go. There is lesbian vampires, and I gotta say, look. I mean, there's something there for everyone, right? There is the for the literary minded, the scholarly, the intellectual, there is some great analysis to be done. And it also speaks to some baser instincts as well, and you can enjoy that as well. Let's face it, as you pointed out, Boomer, some very striking women immortalized in these films.
Yes.
I just think Susan Sarandon and Alyssa Milano, both of whom I would never be able to stand as human beings, but they look great in those films. Let me tell you.
When I was younger, I ran into Alyssa.
They were more than naked. They were naked and macking on a hot naked chick.
I ran into Alyssa Milano in a dream once when I was younger.
I'm sure a lot of us did.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of us did. Yeah.
But no, man, I'm telling you, it's
And I will say this again regarding Embrace of the Vampire, not strictly a lesbian vampire film. She is being seduced by a male vampire and turned into a vampire, and you see the corruption, happening to her, and it is. You do see it as being very similar to becoming addicted to drugs, and before meth and after meth type pictures, that kind of a thing. So there definitely is that element. And in my research, Kirby's, I did come across Lesbian Vampire Killers, but no, I have not watched that particular film. In fact, I didn't watch half of the films that I talked about. I'm pulling synopses from the internet.
You enjoy Lust for a Vampire. Yeah.
Oh, I love the Karstein trilogy, absolutely.
Oh, come on. Did you see Lust for a Vampire?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I've got it on Blu-ray.
It has a musical number in it.
Yes, it does.
It's like that. It's like in the extended version of Superman when you hear Lois Lane reciting the poetry while they're flying. I'm like, no, get that out of here.
I always said that they shouldn't have done that. They should have just let Melissa Manchester's song play. That would have been just fine.
Fine, but no, just. And then in Lust for a Vampire, there's like a full-on music. No, it's a Hammer horror movie.
They did that.
Wasn't
it one of the Universal Frankenstein films? They did that too.
That's different.
It was great.
Yes, but that worked. That was Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, where it's the Tree of Life, the Song of Life, and it's a wonderful song. And of course, we know the plot of that thing is the Wolfman doesn't want to live eternally because he keeps murdering people when the full moon becomes full. So he's trying to figure out a way to stop himself from living eternally. And of course, the song is about living eternally. Why did you say that song to me? And he becomes a real buzzkill at that festival. So
again, I want to, and thank you very much, David. That's very kind of you. I want to get back to the fact that there is this idea that there's something romantic about the vampire, and it's that defining deviancy down, right? It's that's how the corruption works. That's how the devil works, right? He gets you to think, well, I mean, heck, it starts right out in the Garden of Eden, right? You're told you don't eat that fruit, right? Because if you do, you'll die. And the devil comes along and says, he said you'll die, but you're not going to die. What it'll do is it'll make you like God. You'll be able to be intelligent like God, understand things, knowledge. You should do that thing. They do. And what happens? They get the knowledge, but then ultimately they will die. And
to be fair, it was Eve first, and then Adam's like, "Girl, pretty, I'll do what she says."
Well, I've always read that.
I imagine Eve was very beautiful too. That was my imagining.
Well, she was certainly the most beautiful woman in the world, wasn't she?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I mean,
okay, but my point is, yes.
She could have, had.
There's a joke in Paradise Lost where she sees her reflection is so lost in her own beauty that I think Adam has to like, hey, come on, get up. You're like staring in the water forever.
That's one of the I think that's one of the extant stories, but
yeah.
But ultimately, yeah, I've had this philosophical conversation with many people, and I've noticed that single guys tend to think, oh yeah, pretty woman, do what she says. Married man, more like, if I want to have any peace, I better
happy wife, happy life.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. Exactly. But ultimately, it comes down to the same thing. I don't care how you interpret it. Both are guilty.
Oh, sure they are.
You
yes,
are
they're
responsible
guilty
for your own actions.
To be fair, I think Eve got punished worse. I think that was the thing. If you look at the Old Testament,
well,
the childbirth thing in great pain, that was part of that punishment.
Maybe, but I do feel that there does seem to be the implication that a greater responsibility was on Adam.
Yes, it was.
Because not only did he screw up and commit the same sin that Eve did, it was his job to make sure she didn't,
go there, right, and fall into the serpent.
He followed her instead of, and then you can get into the whole Lilith thing as opposed, gender roles and stuff, and there's a lot to dig into there. But real quick, I want to say hi to Maria with Tiantelli, Lady Vampira herself. Welcome. She's painting with Mama. Good. I hope you guys are having fun tonight. By the way, I sent you a message, Maria, on you and PJ on Twitter. Check that out. Dr. Pei wants you guys to stop in and leave a comment on her last video. She asked after you guys. She missed you. So, I said I'd pass on the message. I didn't necessarily say that I could do anything about that, but yeah, she did miss you this morning. And that's all I wanted to say about lesbian vampires. I do kind of feel like I want to watch The Hunger again, though. But anyway,
there's a lot of good horror movies out there, and some of them have lesbian vampires in them.
Absolutely.
And some of them have sexy
witches
in them too.
Here's the interesting thing, right? Although the messaging in the films has changed and gotten very woke, somehow they've still taken out a lot of the nudity. It's like, wait a minute, what happened to this liberation, right? This sexual freedom and stuff.
That's
right?
how they got. That's how they got the talking points in there, and that white people tolerate it. Now you lose the thing that drew you in, and you're just getting a lecture. That's all it is anymore. We've gone full circle. It's just a new type of Puritanism. That's all. It's just. We can't have nice things.
I'm not saying, that it's bad that you weren't there. I'm just saying, she asked after you, so it'd be nice if you just, let her know that I actually did my what I said I'd do and pass on her well wishes and whatnot. And here's someone we haven't seen in a while, Mr. Matchstick.
Right.
If I had a nickel for everything with lesbian vampire, I'd have a lot of nickels.
Just watch True Blood. They're all over the place on that show.
Oh, well, but again, it's you get the distinct impression that they become vampires and then that's it. It's like no morality anymore. So they're going to do anything with everybody.
The depressing thing was there were some vampires on the show. I think there was a couple of them that were the ones that were trying to mainstream vampires in the human society. Some of them were trying to have some kind of a moral code, but they didn't last long.
I think that
like the one the Roman, the guy that had the dealings with the American general, he was trying to keep things in line, or at least keep some form of order, It's like
I think the one that I found most compelling in that regard was, believe it or not, in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. First, you have the establishment of Angel, right? Where you see what the impact of a soul is, right? Without a soul, you have no conscience. You are literally just an animal with the memories of a human, and you have no morality. Ironically, the curse is giving the soul back so that now that conscience is inundated with the horror of what you've done, and that's what Angel was dealing with. On the other hand, you have Spike, who is that, doesn't have a soul, absolutely amoral.
Yeah.
Falls in love with Buffy, and kind of the way, like maybe a robot would or something. Like, I'm going to become good by choice. I don't have those feelings. I don't have that conscience, but to be the kind of man that could, be with her, she makes me want to be a better man kind of a thing.
But don't forget, before that happened, he had that thing stuck in him by the military that would make him have horrible pain whenever he bit somebody. Remember when he was trying to bite somebody?
Yeah.
Granted, that was a stepping stone to getting that under control, that thing.
Yeah.
I think eventually he got rid of it, but then that's when he got to that point with you, right? Yeah.
And that is a very different kind of vampire than what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because he does have the arc where he eventually earns his soul back, then has to suffer the same way Angel did, right?
Yes.
But once he has that soul, he truly can repent.
Vampires on Buffy were very odd because you had some that were almost like orcs. It was like one and done, stake, you're dead. I had the impression on Buffy that the older a vampire was, the more time it had been around, the more powerful it became. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Angel was a powerful, Spike was because they were around longer, right?
Right.
So like
Exactly.
the one who I think there was one vampire who Angel had actually turned like back in like the 1800s or 1700s who I think went to town on the whole police station because he was, but then there are others that were just, you can get him with a sharpened pencil. It was weird.
Exactly. Deleted Satan says, I tried to watch True Blood, never got into it. I read all the books. I read all the books. The books are definitely better.
Yeah.
It's more of a mystery series than it is a horror series. And
books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the series, it deviates. It deviates
the series. That's not. Don't get
started out good. It in a lot of ways it was a lot like Game of Thrones. It starts out good and then just
following the books, and then it veers from the books,
veers off into
trouble.
It's no longer even reflecting the in another analogy I would make would be to what was that zombie series with the Walking Dead? It's a lot like that. Starts out good, starts to deviate, and then just it's not even what its namesake is anymore.
I know that there were things done in the books that they did different in the series. Sometimes that was better than what they did in the comics. I've not seen either to fruition.
I agree with you, but sometimes they tried to have their cake and eat it too. There was a storyline with, and I'm forgetting character names. It's been so long. The Asian kid that was like really good. It's Glenn. Yeah. They gave him a storyline where you thought he was going to die the way he did in the comics, and then he doesn't after a big, long cliffhanger. When he finally gets back, then they kill him just like they did in the comics. And it's like, no. And what's even worse is they do it after killing off another character who didn't die in the comics and then kill him off. It's like, and honestly, that was the point where I just looked at Netter and I'm like, this is just torture porn now. There's nothing about this I even enjoy anymore. And she, honest to God, said to me, I was only watching it because I thought you liked it. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't.
Pity.
She's like, okay, let's stop watching it then.
I will say this, and this is coming from someone who dropped Walking Dead when they did the time jump a couple seasons later. But at that point, that season ended with them finally gearing up and getting allies, and they were going to war with Negan. And the following season was all about the war with Negan. And unlike Game of Thrones, that would have like skirmishes and battles like once or twice a season, you had stuff going on every episode because it was skirmishes on a smaller scale. But it felt like there was an actual war going on between the Saviors and Rick's allies. It was interesting. I'll say that.
The best episodes of that show were the ones that I could look at and see it as though I was a player character in a like zombie survival game or a role-playing game or something like that. And when they started to beleaguer it, it's like, okay, no, this isn't really any fun anymore. Interestingly, before I ever even read the comics, Netter and I played a zombie role-playing game at the local hobby shop for free game day. I actually got the module. It's one of those quick start modules. And you literally play as characters that are in the exact same scenario as that sheriff guy. What's his name?
The governor.
Rick
Grimes. Rick Grimes.
Right. You wake up in the hospital. Your IV is drained. You have a bad headache because you're dehydrated. You have no idea what's happened, and you're in the middle of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
And the only survivors in the hospital are others like you, which is your party at the time. waking up, and now you got to get out of the hospital. You got to figure out what's going on. You got to figure out how
28 Days Later did a similar thing. I
Yeah.
wonder which did it first, Walking Dead or 28 Days, because I know that Walking Dead was a comic first, so I don't know.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so there you go. We got off the lesbian vampires. We got into some of the other horror that you might be interested in. I like what Mr. Magic says. Just do what I did. Don't watch The Walking Dead in the first place. Well, you were a smart man. You were a very smart man.
I'm mixed on The Walking Dead. I'll probably eventually finish it. There were things that annoyed me, but then things that I liked. I hate to say this. I think I was on Negan's side in that conflict. People are going to think I'm a monster, but I think as awful and tyrannical as people think he was, I think he was keeping more people alive than Rick's group was.
I
think in a zombie apocalypse, there's no democracy. I'm sorry.
You could say this about these small, post-apocalyptic, bands of people. You can say it about countries today. You could say it about anything. I think people forget, especially the ones that believe the science. Well, okay, let me tell you what the science is. Okay, human beings are the result of millions of years of evolution. And we are here because our ancestors were the baddest asses there were and survived, probably by killing somebody else for resources and, just to get by, and that's why we are where we are. It's why, we have the instincts we do, and if you ignore all that to pretend that this is some, kumbaya, we can all live together in peace, that is the goal, sure. But you don't just snap your fingers and say, can we all just get along? No, it doesn't work that way, Anyway, the last 4 Walking Dead video game. Oh, Left 4 Dead video game has a sequence that takes place. They got into it with Negan because Rick broke his own rule. We don't kill the living. Yeah, that's a great point, right? That's the thing. This is a survival situation, and what is it to kill the living, right? Is it just shooting them and putting them down? Or is it stealing food from them that they need to survive? See, these are the things you have to think about from the point of view of the other person, right? Negan looks at you, you stole, some of our food and ammunition. You are a danger to us. I'm going to kill you.
Well, they killed a bunch of Negan's people, not realizing that Negan wasn't with the group. I mean, to be fair, though, they did start it because one of the rules was Negan's group was they always kill one of the tribe they're taking over just to prove a point, which, maybe that's not the best way to start out a relationship with some people you're trying to conquer, basically.
But it's that whole pack mentality, the alpha establishing himself.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, Walking Dead had issues. In fact, I don't know if they ever gave Negan's origin. I hope it wasn't.
This is an excellent point. Thank you, Mr. Matchstick. I believe the science. I don't believe the scientists. And why is that? Because scientists are human beings with their own motivations that are perfectly capable of lying. Right? Cui bono. Who benefits? Who paid for that study? Is that study truly completely unbiased? Can you trust that science? Is it really science, or is it just propaganda, a marketing spin? Right? 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend sugarless gum for their patients who chew gum. You know what the remaining dentists said? Don't chew gum. Talk about all the science that said that, this cigarette is healthier than all the other cigarettes. Yeah. That study was paid for by the tobacco company.
I chew double bubble sometimes.
And it's funny because what I said was true, that whole thing about, 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed. But that was back in the late 60s. Since then, the science has come out. Actually, sugarless gum actually is good for a lot of things. It's good for your teeth. It's good for cleaning between your teeth. It gets out all the food and the ick. It freshens your breath. The mastication I said mastication. That's chewing. It builds these jaw muscles, which, kind of helps support, and it decreases hunger. A dietitian will tell you, in between meals, chew sugarless gum.
Okay.
It'll make you less hungry.
I'll think about it.
Yeah. So yeah. And that's the other thing that understanding science. When you think just wait a little while. We might learn something new.
Now I
you
feel
don't
like
have all the answers yet.
Now I feel like I have to put on the more you know thing.
Wait a minute. I got that here somewhere. Where is it? I know I had it here somewhere.
You say something factual about lesbian vampires and then say the more you know.
I thought I had it. Oh yeah, here.
If Ingrid Pitt tries seducing you, you're dead. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, and see, again, therein is the problem, right? It's like, if I was a single guy, yeah, I'd be dead. I'm a married guy. I don't care how hot she is.
They'd have to get past me.
Well, there is that too.
Do you remember did you ever see the episode of Firefly with the actress that played Joan on Mad Men, the redheaded lady? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Christina Hendricks. Yeah, Christina.
Yes.
Did you see the episode of Firefly with her in it?
I must have done, yeah.
She was in more than one episode. She was a trained seducer. In fact, I think she came from the.
Oop! Shit!
Did you just knock us out?
I just knocked Boomer out. I'm sorry, Boomer. That was my fault, folks. I screwed that one up. I accidentally kicked out my designated driver. Yeah, well.
Boomer, come back.
I'm so sorry. I will try sending him a message.
He's probably still going like, what the heck?
My fault, come back.
And everything just went quiet. I'm like, did you just kick us out?
Yeah, no, it was. We're still in there, but there he is. Hold on, let me. How do I bring him back? I'm so sorry.
So I did a dumb.
I had a wrong button.
Anyway, the point is that she was apparently an expert at seduction. Like, she could seduce anyone, right?
Sure.
And she tried seducing the pilot, and she came kind of close, and he says, you know what, I'm married. We have a really good relationship. And he actually brought up the wife, and she got angry. I think she just bopped him on the head.
Yeah.
Because apparently she got, Nathan Fillion's character. She was able to get, except it didn't work on him because he was in love with his wife. And
yeah.
Like, they didn't understand how he withstood her skills, but he did, because he was,
This is the other.
With his wife. Yeah.
This is that, sometimes morality is really that cut and dry.
Yeah.
I had a situation with my my stepdaughter. Look, when you are a homeowner, right? You have responsibilities. If something happens on your property, you could be sued. You can lose everything. And she was told, you do not bring friends here when we are not here to supervise. And I get home one day and her friends are there and someone's gotten injured and there's a whole situation, and take care of the situation. And then I just blew up at her. And she's like, well, he needed to use the bathroom. I said, no, there is no equivocation you can give me. The rule is this: you do not have any wiggle room there. This is not your house as a homeowner. You live here at my pleasure because I am the homeowner. See, you follow my rules. And this is not a I'm 18, I can do whatever I want situation. I don't care if you're 45. You are living in my house. I am the one who is responsible for everything that goes on here. It isn't even an option for you. Why do I bring that up? I bring that up because it's the same thing with the whole seduction thing, right? I'm a married man. I made a vow. I don't care what problems I'm having in my marriage. If I get, like a 7-year itch, or I guess now it would have to be a 31-year itch or something like that. I don't know. But, I made a vow. That means something to me. I don't even have an option. I don't even have an option to stray. That's all there is to it. That's the morality that so many people have lost and just don't understand.
Well, it's the times we're living in.
It very much is.
It's also about people shirking responsibility, including people in
shirking responsibility, never having responsibility in the first place. It's always someone else's fault. No matter what happens, I'll blame everyone else but myself. And I said this a long time ago. I said, look, you look at every situation you're in, and look for how much of it can you take responsibility for, because you can only change you. If you want, a situation to change, you need to take control of that situation. And if you can find, I screwed up, well, don't screw up again. If someone else is truly responsible, maybe you don't want them in your life. If they can't take responsibility and it's going to cause you problems, you are not the kind of person I can be friends with, because you're not someone I can depend on. And there used to be that kind of sense where I need to be who I need to be so that other people will trust me, know they can depend on me. You earn that social credit with those people, right? I think he was in love with his wife, but he was also afraid of his wife. Well, yeah, that's not a good situation. I mean,
or afraid of the dad with the shotgun.
Are we talking about an Amber Heard kind of situation here? But yeah, that's the other good point. The vow made to my wife stands before all mankind and God, and even death will not part. Absolutely.
Yep.
Especially if that's the other thing. There is, and I'm hearing this a lot more. I'm hearing a lot more. I'm not going to call them atheists. I'm going to call them agnostic. Agnostic people who I believe there's something. I just don't know that it's God or specifically or what. But they all have this belief that the universe or something, there's something greater, and that there is some kind of life after death. More and more people are seeing that just from evidence in their life. And if you start to see life as something that continues beyond the, average 80 plus years, that humans live, it's not just about how much can I enjoy myself while I have life. It's, what? There's something after this, and I better not start, from a place of deficit going into it.
So the guy that wrote in the Tombstone, he who dies with the most toys wins, may not be winning in the end. Is that what you're saying? But,
yeah. Well, unless you're Ferengi and you believe that whoever dies with the most takes it with them into the afterlife, and they can buy themselves a better place.
Or Grandpa Simpson Grandpa Simpson who talks about rich man's heaven. I want to go to rich man's heaven, like there's a second heaven just for rich people or something.
Yeah, it's called hell.
I know, it's just some rambling thing he said, which didn't make any sense because he's Grandpa Simpson.
And we wore an onion on our belt because that was the style at the time, but not those white ones, a yellow one, because there was a war on.
Oh, no.
And back then, nickels had bees on them.
Yeah, I know.
Holy cow. Okay, so tomorrow night, where are we going to be tomorrow night? Tomorrow night, well, actually, for some of y'all, later tonight, over on Netter's Network, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, we will be watching Corpse Bride.
Oh, yeah.
Dead brides.
Yes. Yeah. More dead dead married couples, right?
That actually
I
has
thought-
a Jewish origin, right? A Yiddish folklore.
It is. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. Yeah. And then Sunday, of course, deleted scenes. Just make sure you're following deleted scenes because he's doing something all day on Sunday. He's on with Jedi Bill and he's doing other stuff. But the one that I focus on because it orients my day, or at least my evening, is at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, unscripted with deleted scenes. 1 hour lead in to Age Boomers channel, where we're talking geeky geezers. What are we going to be talking about on Sunday?
I'm going to be talking about, unfortunately, a couple of recent celebrity deaths. But we're going to be doing, we're going to be talking about a bunch of things that night. We're going to be talking about the new Spider-Man game on PlayStation 5 because you
sent me 12 articles about it, so we'll definitely be talking about that.
What else we're talking about? Oh, of course, postponements by Disney of a certain Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which made
I saw that one today. Holy cow, that's
Disney. Are you?
I literally did the whole J. Jonah Jameson, the whole. You're serious?
Well, I have my own thoughts. I think they're realizing, let's put some distance between us and this thing, and maybe we can salvage it. I think that's what's going on here. We'll get more into it.
This is a battle they cannot win because, and we'll talk more about this on Sunday, but now you are using full-size human beings to be stand-ins for dwarves that you didn't hire that could have gotten a job.
CG dwarves, yes. They'll probably be full size. I don't know, but they'll look like the ones from the cartoon, right? That's all that matters.
Watch for hashtag dwarf face to begin trending. I guarantee it.
No, yep. You should start that if you want.
There is no winning in this circumstance. They screwed up. They should have just willowed it. They should have just said, screw it. We're done. We're walking away. But they can't. They keep doubling down. Yep. Richard Mall is one that we'll be talking about, Nate. Absolutely. Especially, was it Jedi? No, it wasn't Jedi Bill. Somebody just did a rewatch of the movie House.
That's right. He was in there.
I follow so many channels. I forget, who's doing what, but yeah.
You know what House has been referred to as? It's the R-rated horror movie that was made for kids.
Kinda, yeah.
The R-rated movie, like you're a kid, you sneak and watch it, but it really is intended.
It had elements of and this I think was something you could only do in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
It was like Gremlins and many of those other movies that were like horror movies, but had this humorous vein going through it. Yes. It was like a horror comedy almost. Not quite comedy, but almost.
Yes.
And sometimes that's more off-putting than a straight horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, what's the name from Cheers was in it. Remember? That was
who was?
The guy that played Cliff, I think, right? Not the mailman, the other guy.
Norm. George Wendt.
Yeah, Norm. Yeah. He was George Wendt. Yes, he was in it, and
I saw him here in Chicago. He was in a play. Was it called Rounding Home? I forget. It was a really good play, though. It was really good. And I was like front row. I mean, he walked like right by me, and it was like, man, I wish I could stick around afterwards, maybe get his autograph or whatever. Nice guy, real nice guy.
Yes.
But anyway, so that's Then after Geeky Geezers, we're going to get back over to deleted scenes to close out the weekend with what's it? The Other Side of Midnight. I keep wanting to call it something else, but it's The Other Side of Midnight. And that will round out our Sunday. What is going on in the first part of the week? We got is there anything Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Oh, Tuesday. Well, first, is there anything on Monday?
No.
Okay. So Tuesday Tuesday, we will be back on Deleted Scenes. Deleted Scenes is a busy guy. He's one of the hardest working blue wrenches in all of YouTube land, but he's also solid. He's not like Mikey the Mexican Iron Man who blue wrenches for everybody, but I'm not really a YouTuber. No, this guy blue wrenches for everybody, and he's clearly a YouTuber. So he definitely deserves all the kudos there. But yes, I'm sorry, I digress. Tuesday we will be on Deleted Scenes, watching the second episode of Twin Peaks. But before that, I think it is 5 o'clock Central. That's 6 Eastern. I will be on Pacific 414 stream, at least for the. I don't think he'll go longer than 2 hours, but if he does, I'll have to bail on him. But I'm going to hang out with him at least for the first part of his show. He's doing a special Halloween stream. He asked me to be on with him, talk about some of my favorite horror movies. So I will be over there on Halloween. And then Wednesday.
No, nothing with Birdman as far as I know.
Nothing with Birdman. Okay. Thursday, over on Netter's Network.
Right
Thursday
now,
thing.
I have Tom Conkle and Lucinda Bruce coming back on to talk about Island of the Stars, a campaign.
Like the follow-up.
Follow-up, right. I actually asked Tom, if we're still on and all that, and he said Lucinda might not be able to make it because of her schedule. So if nothing else, I should still have Tom.
Sure.
If worse comes to worse, I'll just schedule him for another week.
Mm-hmm. So that is Thursday with Thursday Things. Friday, we will be back here. Don't know what we'll be talking about, but we will be back here.
Booze.
And I will have a drink, and I will, if someone wants me to, I'll sing you a song. The link is right up over here if you want to buy me a drink and request a song or bribe me not to sing. I would totally understand that. And that rounds out our week. Anything else you can think of that we need to cover, Agent Boomer?
What's Saturday? Oh, wait, that's going past the week. Never mind.
That's fine, but we could. I know that's Big Al's week, but I'm a little blurry. I can't remember exactly what it is.
Did we do Deleted Scenes stuff on Sunday as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I guess we're all caught up. But I'll see you again on Sunday.
There we go. All righty. Netter, you want to close this out?
Absolutely. Because y'all know what I always say.
I absolutely do.
We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well, good, and fun. But it is so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat, and you're dropping your comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're all just hanging out in the same room, enjoying each other's company and having a great time. And you guys aren't just our friends. You are our family. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so very much. You can be anywhere right now, and you choose to be here. And that is so encouraging. So thank you once again for joining us, spending this time with us, hanging out with us, and we will definitely see you next time.
Absolutely. I super appreciate you guys. I've also been very encouraged by the growth the channel's been having. I'm up to, 700, it was like 705 as of today. Man, I know it's onesies and twosies, but I super appreciate it. I mean, and you know what, you guys are here every week. You've made me part of your Friday lineup. It's a lot of bigger channels streaming right now that you could be on, but you guys come and hang out with me, and I super appreciate that, guys. So you know what? Take care. Have a great one. Be safe this weekend, and just remember, I don't care how hot they are. Watch out for those lesbian vampires. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night, ladies.
Good night, sir.
Hit it, sweetheart.